The supernatural oftentimes works through the natural, that if we are not careful, we would miss it. So breakthrough will not arrive loudly. It comes quietly, after you have endured more than you thought you could, after you have stood when everything told you to fall. For Eliana, it began with a call she had been waiting for, without even knowing how much she needed it. Her mother's voice sounded different this time. There was relief in it. There was lightness. There was something that had been missing before. Her father was responding to treatment. The antibiotics were working. He was getting better. And for the first time in days, Eliana could breathe. She sat there quietly, holding the phone, letting the words settle, letting hope return in a place that had felt empty. And she whispered softly, "Thank you." Not loudly, not dramatically, but gratefully. The days that followed began to move again. Eliana prepared for her interviews. She showed up. She gave her best. And then the responses came. One email said no. She had not passed to the next stage. She paused, just for a moment, let the disappointment pass through her. And then she steadied herself again. The second message came. Different tone, different outcome. She had passed, but the next interview was scheduled 2 months away. 2 months. It felt both close and far at the same time. She smiled and then sighed. Excited, yet uncertain. Grateful, yet wondering how she would manage. Still, she held on. Still, she spoke the word. Still, she chose faith. Then one day, her phone rang. A name she had not seen in a long time. Cynthia. She hesitated, almost ignored it. But something inside her told her to answer. The conversation started lightly, catching up, laughing, remembering old times. Then Cynthia got straight to it. She needed help, urgently. A manuscript needed editing, a major client, a tight deadline. No available editors. And then she remembered Eliana. "You were the best," Cynthia said, "the fastest reader I've ever seen. I need you." Eliana laughed softly, flattered, unsure. "I'm not qualified," she said gently. But Cynthia insisted, strongly, confidently. "You're better than most of my team." Then she mentioned the payment, and Eliana froze. The number was more than she expected. Much more. She didn't know what to say. Cynthia was asking, almost pleading, while Eliana was the one in need. She took a breath, thought for a moment, and said yes. The manuscript came. She started immediately, focused, immersed, working with everything she had. Hours passed, days moved, and she finished, better than she expected. Then came the payment, and when it arrived, she sat still, overwhelmed. She paid part of her rent, cleared some bills, set up payment plans for the rest. She renewed her car insurance, and for the first time in a long time, things began to shift. She traveled to see her father, and on the way, her thoughts were full. God had come through, in a way she never expected, through something she once saw as a hobby. She remembered the teaching. God uses what you have, every gift, every ability, every skill you have. He turns it into provision, into answers, into miracles. Her pastor once said, When you walk by faith, you will be living through one surprise after another. She believes it. God has indeed surprised her with this miracle. Cynthia encouraged her to register online, on freelance platforms, to offer her skills, part-time jobs, to grow. Eliana listened. She could have money coming in at intervals. This is more than she could have bargained for. She then took action, registered in a few. She arrived in the hospital. Her dad was doing good. The doctors were hopeful. They all said a prayer of thanksgiving.
After visiting her dad, Eliana made her way to her parents' house. The atmosphere felt lighter, calmer, different from before. As she stepped inside, she saw a familiar face. Laurel, her cousin. They smiled, exchanged warm greetings, simple moments that felt grounding. After a while, Laurel looked at her, curious, thoughtful. "So, have you found a job yet?" Eliana paused slightly, then answered honestly, "Not yet." Her voice was calm, but carried quiet weight. Laurel nodded slowly, then leaned forward a little, as if considering something. "How would you feel about traveling for a job?" Eliana's expression changed. Curiosity, mixed with a flicker of hope. She listened closely. Laurel began to explain. "A client of mine needs to travel, but there are renovations going on in their home. They need someone to stay there, just for a week, to look after the house, and to walk the dog daily." Her tone was casual, but the opportunity was anything but small. "And the pay is good," Laurel added. Eliana blinked, processing everything. It almost felt too good to be true. A job, travel included, simple responsibilities, and good pay. She thought for a moment, looked inward, then smiled slightly. She had nothing holding her back, nothing urgent waiting at home, no reason to stay still, and staying back would only mean more waiting, more thinking. This felt different, like a door opening at just the right time. And quietly, with a growing sense of hope, she said yes. And just like that, another opportunity. Unexpected. A house-sitting job. Paid. Travel included. Accommodation covered. Simple work. And good money. She had accepted gratefully. She travelled and settled down to do the work. And while she was there, more jobs came. Freelance work. Cynthia had remained true to her promise. She also gave her more jobs to do through the platform. This means more income, more blessing. She could pay off more bills. She felt lighter. She felt loved. She whispered, "Thank you, Father." Then one day, when she was back home, the call came. From the company. They wanted her to start. Immediately, the following week. And everything changed. Eliana sat there, holding the phone in her hand, the words still echoing in her mind. They wanted her to start work. Not in 2 months, but the following week. They had gone through their other candidates. They explained. None was as qualified as her. They see no reason for her to do a second interview. She didn't move immediately. She just sat there, letting it sink in, letting the moment breathe, letting herself feel everything. Then slowly, she stood up, walked to the middle of the room, and dropped to her knees. Tears came freely, not quiet this time, not held back, just honest, just full. "Thank you," she whispered, again and again, from a place deeper than words. The following week, she walked into her new workplace as someone who had been shaped, refined, strengthened. She was shown to her office, her own space, her own desk, a new beginning. And quietly, she reached into her bag, took out a small piece of paper, a sticker. She placed it on the side of her computer. Simple, clear, intentional. The just shall live by faith. Soon after, she was introduced to Asher. Warm, confident, easy to talk to. He was assigned to guide her, show her the systems, help her settle in. And he did. Days passed, and conversations grew. Simple at first, then deeper, then meaningful. One afternoon, he noticed it. The sticker, right beside her screen. "Are you a Christian?" he asked, surprised, genuine. She smiled. "Yes." "There's a story behind that," she said. He paused, then smiled too. "I'd like to hear it. Someday." She smiled back and answered, "Someday." "I'm a Christian too." He shared his own faith, his journey, his experiences, and something connected. Over the days that followed, they talked more. About life, about God, about purpose. He felt very familiar, like she had known him for years. She feels free with him. She doesn't have to say much. He gets her. Then one day, he asked, intentionally, "Let's go out, and you can tell me the story." Behind the sticker. He said it with a smile. She said yes, and that yes became something more. They spent time together, learned about each other, laughed, prayed together. What started as a conversation became a connection, then something deeper, then something real. 6 months passed quickly. She can't believe she had been dating Asher for that long. They had grown so close. They both knew something had changed. They both knew there is a future here. She knew the time had come to introduce him to her parents. On the way to visit her parents, Eliana looked out the window, thinking, reflecting, remembering how far she had come, how much had shifted, how much had been restored. She had a good job, stable, fulfilling, rewarding. She still freelanced on her own terms. That had remained special to her, because that was how God brought her out of lack. The bills were no longer hanging over her. She got a starting bonus at work. The bills were the first to go. Cleared, settled. And Asher had become more. That she did not envision. She could not have written that. It was another unexpected surprise. And then it came to her. The verse. Clear. Familiar. God is able to do exceedingly, abundantly above all you ask or think. She had only asked for provision, for stability, for a way out. But God had given more, much more. Things she hadn't even considered, things she didn't ask for, because He knew what she needed, even when she didn't. And if you asked Eliana today what she would say, what advice she would give, she would pause, smile, and answer simply, do everything you can to learn how to walk by faith. Not by what you see, not by what you feel, but by what God has said. Because when you do, you open the door to things you cannot explain, to provision, to peace, to unexpected doors, to a life that goes beyond your plans. Because the just shall live by faith.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and watch out for more faith stories on this channel.